Okay, so before we start mapping this thing, there's just one more tweak I want to make. You'll notice here that I left quite a bit of space in between these two doors, and I don't want you to be able to see inside, so let's just close that up quickly before we move on. Okay, so we'll jump into the left view with that middle door selected, and we'll just go to vertex and just select these bottom verts and just pull them down to close it up. Alright, we don't have to go right together, but just want a little space there. Okay, maybe like that, and then let's turn off vertex and select our keyhole and just move it back into position. Alright, maybe like that. Okay, and I think I also want the handle on the bottom door to be a little longer, so I'm just going to do that quickly as well. Okay, so we'll go to vertex and I'm just going to select these guys and just pull them down slightly. Alright, not too much, just like that maybe. Alright, just because on the reference picture I think it was a little longer than we had it. Okay, so just like that. Alright, exit vertex. Alright, so we'll move on and start mapping it now, and like I mentioned in the intro, I'm not going to map all the pieces inside of Max. We'll do some of them in here using the unwrap UVW modifier, but I am going to export a few of the pieces out to the demo version of UV Layout. Okay, so before we go any farther, I'll just give the URL right now where you can find that, and it's uvlayout.com. Alright, so you can just go over there and download the trial version. It'll last for about 30 days and then it'll expire, and you'll either have to purchase a license for it or download another demo version that'll last for another month. Okay, and I haven't actually purchased it myself, but I've been using the demo version for the last few months, and I really like it, so yeah, I'll be using that on a few of the pieces. The trial's not fully functional, but it'll have everything we need to do our mapping. Okay, so if you want to go over and grab that, then you'll be able to follow me step by step. And I'm also going to be using the free OBJ exporter from GuruWare, and that's the URL for it right here. You can just go and download that for free and install it. It's similar to the OBJ exporter that comes with Max, but I like it a little better, so I'll be using that. Okay, so I've already installed both of those, so we'll move on here, and I think I'm going to start mapping the top here first. So for that one, I'm going to actually take it out and do it in UV Layout, so I'm just going to select it, and we'll just go to File, Export Selected. Alright, and I'm going to save this onto my desktop. Okay, and we'll just give it a name, we'll call it Top. Alright, and once you install the OBJ exporter, you can find it in the list here. It's the GW OBJ exporter. Alright, so I'm just going to select that and then hit Save. Okay, and it'll come up, and it looks similar to the one that ships with Max. I'm going to leave everything at the defaults besides the faces here. I'm going to change the pull down to polygons, and I think by default it's set to triangles. Okay, so we'll choose polygons, and the only reason I'm doing that is because we have some n-gons on some of our pieces, like on the side of our top here, and if we leave it on triangles or polygons, when we export it, it's going to try to figure out how to cut those n-gons into quads, so it's going to cut a bunch of edges all over the place as it tries to figure out how to quad it up. Alright, so we'll leave it on polygons, that way it'll stay just like this in UV Layout. Okay, so do that and then say export and then hit done. Okay, that's it, it's exported, so let's minimize Max. Alright, go to the desktop, and here's our OBJ right here. Alright, and when you install UV Layout, you'll get this icon on your desktop, so to load up your OBJ in there, you just drag it and drop it on the icon. And that'll load it up, so we'll just stretch the window a little bigger so we can see. Okay, so I'll just go over the navigation quickly for UV Layout. Alright, so to orbit your camera around, it's just the left mouse button, and move your mouse around. Alright, to actually pan, it's the middle mouse button, and to zoom, it's either the scroll wheel or the right mouse button. Okay, so pretty simple. Alright, so our geometry is really simple here, and it's going to be able to flatten it out really quickly, but we're just going to split it a couple of times to help it along. Okay, so I'm going to cut the corners. Alright, so let's just open up the display tab over here. Okay, and I'll just go over this really quickly. By default, it'll have 10 selected here, and that's just going to be how many edges it'll select when you select an edge. Alright, so if I hover over an edge here, and the way you select them in UV Layout is you just hover over the one you want, and you just press C on the keyboard. Okay, so I'll do that now. C. Alright, you can see the one that we selected turned red, and then it added these extra ones to either side of our selection. Okay, and that's just because we have 10 turned on here. Alright, if you had one turned on, I'll just undo that, Control Z. If you just had one turned on and you did the same thing, see, it would just add one to either end of your selection. Okay, and then obviously 0 will just pick single edges. Alright, so you can go along and just, if you want to be really precise. Just gonna undo that a couple times, Control Z. Alright, so let's just turn it on 10. and we'll just select this one right here, so C. Okay, you want this to go all the way around to the bottom, so I'm just going to hit it there and then go up to this side and just hit C one more time. Okay, we just want to make sure we go to the blue border here. Alright, but we don't want to cut the whole side off, so we want to deselect this red one. Alright, so to deselect edges in here, you just hover over it and press backspace. Okay, and you'll see it deselects. Alright, so just from this piece all the way down to the inside of the corner on both ends. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Alright, same edge, C, and then backspace this one out. Okay, and then let's go underneath and just make sure it went all the way around. Okay, so C again and C again. Okay, so pretty simple. Alright, so to actually split that open, you can either hit Enter or Shift and S. So I'm going to hit Shift S. Okay, and you'll notice it splits it open. Okay, and then all we have to do now is just drop this from our editor window into the UV view. So I'm going to hover over it and just press D on the keyboard. Okay, and then I'll drop it from our editor space to our UV space. Alright, so we'll just go over here, tick on 3D quickly, and then go over here to UV. Okay, and here it is in UV view with the 0 to 1 box, just like in Max. Okay, so to flatten it down, there's a couple ways you can do it. If you're working on something that's really simple, you can just hold down the F key until it flattens out and then just let go when you're happy with it. Or you can do initial like stretch before you flatten it. Okay, so to do that, it's Shift and F, which I'm going to press right now. Okay, Shift F. Alright, and it's really simple, so it's done almost immediately, but what this does is it just stretches it out, similar to pelt mapping in Max. It just pulls it in every direction. Alright, and it'll do that for a minute, and depending on how complex your geometry is, it might take the full minute to kind of figure out how it's going to stretch it out. But as you can see, nothing's happening here. It's just sitting there, so we can stop it ahead of time by pressing spacebar. Okay, and then it'll actually go into like the flatten part of the operation and flatten it down. Alright, and you'll get a minute countdown again here, and then it'll stop and it'll be as flat as it can do it. Okay, but ours isn't moving anymore, so we can just stop it ahead of time by hitting spacebar. Okay, so there it is, all flattened out. And when you're doing this, you're just pretty much looking for consistent color, this green color if you can get it. You can see here we have a slight pinkish color, so that's going to be maybe a very slight stretch. If it was really bad, you'd see red all over the place and you'd know you have stretches. So this is probably fine for what we're doing, so we'll just kind of straighten it out. And to do that, inside the editor window, you just hold down the spacebar, and the left mouse button will rotate, the middle mouse button will pan, and the right mouse button will actually scale the shell. Okay, but we don't want to scale it, so I'm just going to hit Control Z. Alright, so I'll just try to straighten it out, spacebar and the left mouse button. Okay, get it somewhat straight, and then we can either scale it manually to fit it into the 0 to 1, or you can just go over here and hit auto fit. Okay, and it'll do it for you. And it's not perfectly straight, but we can probably straighten that out a little better inside of Max. Okay, so we won't worry about it for now. We'll just leave it like that and then go back to the 3D view. Alright, click 3D. Okay, and we'll just check our mapping, and to do that you can just press T and it'll give you the checker pattern, and then T again will give you more detail. Alright, just like that. Okay, it doesn't look too bad. There's some slight pink here, but it doesn't look like it's gonna really be a problem, so we'll just leave it. Okay, so we'll just save it out. Okay, so let's go up to save, and I usually just like to add an H to the end of the name here, just so I know that's the version from UV Layout, and then we'll say save. Okay, and you'll see it pop up on the background there, and then we'll just dismiss this and close it and exit. Okay, so I'm just going to dump the original version from Max because we don't need it anymore, and we'll keep our mapped version here. And I'm just going to go back into Max, and we'll just delete our top. Alright, delete, and then let's import the mapped one. So we'll go File, Import, just go to the desktop, and change this to OBJ. And for the imports, I'm just going to use the standard OBJ importer. Okay, and we'll just select our top and then hit Open. Okay, and for the options here, I pretty much have everything turned on. Just make sure you have single ticked because we have a single object. Alright, and then we'll say OK. Alright, so there it is, and by default it's going to name all these pieces default when we bring them in, so I'm just going to change the name back to top. Okay, and it's also going to make it editable mesh, as you can see here. It won't be edit poly, so I'm just going to convert it back to editable poly quick. Okay, change our color back to black. Alright, so let's just open up the material editor with M. Alright, so we're going to need something on here so we can actually see how our mapping is looking. Alright, so Maybe you have a little UV pattern you can use to do this. You could use the checker pattern from Max, but I usually prefer to use an actual image when I do this. And I made a little quick one in Photoshop that you can actually download from my site in the tutorial section if you don't have one that you can use. Alright, so I'm just going to open that up right now. So I'm going to take a new material, open up the map box for the diffuse channel. Alright, just choose bitmap and go to my desktop. Alright, and I just have one here, this guy, and I just made this quickly in Photoshop, and this would be the one that you can download from my site if you want to use it. Alright, so I'm just going to open it. Okay, and it's pretty small, it's only 300 by 300 pixels, so I'm just going to give it some tiling. Let's do maybe 20 by 20. Okay, and then we'll just drag and drop it on the top. Okay, and we'll also turn on show and viewport here so we can see it. Okay, just close that. Alright, so just like that, and again, you can use pretty much any checker pattern that you might have. Doesn't really matter. Alright, so let's put an unwrap on this piece. Alright, so into the modify list down to unwrap UVW, and we'll just hit edit. Alright, so they're still in the same place as they were inside of UV layout, so let's just try to straighten this out a bit. I'm just going to shrink the window so you can kind of see it in the background. Alright, so I'm just going to turn on face, and I have sync to element tick just so we can select the whole chunk. Alright, and I think I'll just relax this a couple of times and see if I can straighten it out. Okay, so I'm just going to go into the viewport here and press F2 to turn off the red shading. Alright, so we can see a little easier. And with it selected, we'll just go Tools, Relax. Okay, and for this I'm going to change the method to face angles. Alright, we'll up the amount to 1, and I'm just going to pump up the iterations a bit. Doesn't really matter how high you go. Alright, and we'll just hit apply a few times. Alright, and it's not too bad, but you can see it slightly moving as we do that. Okay, and it's getting a lot straighter as you can see here. Alright, so we'll just hit it a couple of times. That's probably fine. Close this. Alright, so there it is, straightened out. Alright, so what I'm going to do with this is just grab it and just move it up outside of the 0 to 1 box. Okay, just stick it somewhere up here. Alright, the reason I'm doing that is because I'm planning on attaching all the pieces of the mailbox together when we get everything mapped. So if we leave them packed into the 0 to 1, everything's going to be overlapping. Alright, so I'm just going to give them some space to make it a little quicker to organize when we get to that point. Okay, so we'll drop it up there and then just close this and turn it off. Alright, so the top's done, and we'll just do the same thing for the body. So let's select it, and I'm going to take this out as well, so we'll export it. Export selected, just call it body. Save, and it'll remember the settings from last time, so we'll just say export and done. Okay, and then we'll minimize max, go out to the desktop. Just going to get rid of this top one, we don't need it anymore, and drag the body onto UV layout. Alright, same thing here, just say load. Alright, and we'll just make this a little bigger. Okay, so the body piece is really simple. I'm just going to split the corners just to help it along. Okay, so let's open up the display again. I'm just going to change the edge selection to 1. Okay, and then let's zoom in on the corners here. I'm just going to split these. Alright, so maybe we'll do it right here. Hit C. C on that one. Go around to the back. Alright, just like that. And then we'll do the same on the bottom. Alright, this will just help it flatten out. Alright, C. Alright, just so you have a little split on each corner. Okay, and then we'll hit Shift S to break it open and D to drop it. Alright, and we'll go back to our UV view. Okay, and it shouldn't have any problem doing this. It's pretty simple, so we'll just hit Shift F, give it a second, and then spacebar. Alright, I'll just let it straighten out as best it can do. Alright, so just give it a second. Looks pretty good, so let's just end it with spacebar. Okay, so there it is, all done. And we'll just straighten it out, so spacebar and the left mouse button, just rotate it. Try to keep it somewhat straight. Alright, maybe like that, and then we'll just hit auto fit to fit it into the 0 to 1, and then let's go back to the 3D view and check our mapping. I'm just going to hit T a couple of times. Alright, so just like that. And it's really fast. That's why I like UV layout. It's quite a bit faster than doing this in Max, I think. Alright, so that looks cool. Good enough, so let's save it. Alright, just going to add an H in here, so I know that's the headest version, and we'll hit save. Okay, and dismiss and close and exit. Alright, so let's get rid of the original. Keep our mapped one, and we'll go back into Max and just delete the body and import our new one. Alright, import, body, open. It'll remember the same settings you used last time, so just say OK. Alright, there it is. It's going to be named default again, so let's add a new name to it, call it body. I'm going to right click and convert it to editable poly again, and change the color back to black. Alright, and let's open up the material editor with M. We're going to just chuck our checker pattern on. Alright, so let's put an unwrap on this piece. Alright, unwrap UVW, hit edit. Alright, I'll just shrink the window down so we can actually see what we're doing. Okay, so same deal here. I think I'll just relax this quickly. So let's go to face, and make sure you have synced element turned on, select the body piece, and then we'll just do tools, relax. Alright, I'm going to use face angles again. I just find that gives you a better result on most things than edge angles, so that's why I'm changing it. Alright, we'll put the iterations up, and then just hit apply a few times. Okay, that's probably fine, and close this. Alright, and you'll notice over here these checkers are way bigger than the ones we have on the top. Alright, and usually what I like to do is scale everything down so the checkers are even size over all the pieces. That way you'll know that your pixel density on your texture is going to be even, and the resolution is going to be the same on all the pieces. Okay, so one piece isn't going to have way higher resolution than the other piece. And we could wait till after and scale everything down, but I think I'll just do it as we go. So let's just go to scale here, and I'm just going to scale this up. Alright, as I do that, you'll see the checkers get smaller. Okay, and I'm going to try to match the size we have going up here. Alright, it doesn't have to be perfect. Alright, maybe like that. And it's not necessary to do this in every case. Depending on what you're working on, you might want one piece of your model to have a higher res texture than another piece. Say for a character, you might want the face to be higher res than the arm or the hand. Alright, but in this case we want everything to be as even as possible, so we'll do this, and then we'll just move this up and stick it somewhere for now. Alright, and then click off, close this, turn off the unwrap. Alright, so just like that. So the body's done. Okay, so let's do a save quickly. I'm just going to name this mapping. Save copy. Okay, so let's maybe start mapping these doors now. And we could do that in UV layout, but I think I'll just do it in max because it's not going to take too long. Okay, so we'll start with the top one up here, select it. Just open up the material editor and drag and drop our material. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of keep it there so I can see it in the background, and we'll put an unwrap on this. Alright, unwrap UVW, and just hit edit. Alright, I'll shrink the window down so we can kind of see what we're doing back there. Alright, so for this I'm just going to use flatten mapping. Alright, so let's turn on face and synced element, and just select our whole chunk there, and then we'll just go up here to mapping, down to flatten mapping. Open that up, and we'll just leave it at the defaults, and hit OK. Okay, and what it's going to do is just break all the pieces up based on that 45-degree angle that we had in the settings there. Okay, so we're going to end up with all these strip pieces, and you can see over here that everything's upside down right now. Alright, so the first thing we should do is just rotate this around. Okay, so I'm just going to go to rotate, and you can rotate it just manually, or you can actually turn on your angle snaps up here and make it a little easier, because that'll actually apply in the editor window as well. Okay, so we'll turn that on and just rotate it 180 degrees. Alright, just so everything's upright. If you're using the unwrap tool script, you can just flip it with the buttons here. Okay, it's the same thing. Alright, so let's just go back to edge and turn off synced element, and we'll just start stitching these pieces back together. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in here, and we'll just grab this green edge on the top piece. Okay, and I'm not sure what the default hotkey is for stitch. I have mine set up as S, but I'm not sure what the default is, but you can just right click and then stitch selected. Okay, if you don't know what the hotkey is, it'll do the same thing. Alright, so we'll just stitch that piece back on. I'm just going to spread these out. Okay, and we'll just continue on selecting edges. Not sure where this one is. Alright, that looks like the bottom one. Okay, so we'll go up to the top here and just select that one, and you want to make sure you get the green one because that's the outside border, and you can always tell because it'll show you the blue edge that corresponds to it. Okay, so stitch selected, stitch selected. Okay, we'll just keep doing this. I'm just going to zoom in so I can get that green one. And you want to make sure you get the green one, else it's not going to do anything. Okay. Alright, so just keep going until we get up to the top. It's definitely faster having the hotkey set up, but either way, it doesn't matter. Alright, and that's all of them. Okay, so it's one piece again. And I don't think we need to relax this piece. It's, you know, it's looking pretty straight. So just zoom in here and just check it out quickly. Alright, turn edges off at 4. Alright, so it looks like it's running pretty good over the indentations and everything, so that's probably fine. Alright, so we'll just scale this quickly. So I'm going to go back to face, turn on synced element, select the chunk, and we'll just scale it down slightly. Try to match our checker size back there. Okay, maybe just like that, and then we'll just leave this outside of the 0 to 1 as well. Alright, just stick it down here maybe, and then close this and turn off the unwrap. Okay, so there's one door done, and we'll just repeat the process on the middle door as well. Okay, so add an unwrap, edit, face, synced element turned on, select our chunk, map in, flatten mapping. Okay, alright, and just move this out of the way, you don't need it that big. Alright, so let's put our material on this one. Alright, and again I'm just going to flip it, so you can use rotate if you want. I'm just going to hit the button over here to flip it over. Alright, and we'll just go back to edge, turn off synced element, and just repeat the process on this piece. Okay, stitch selected. Alright, I'm just going to move them apart a bit because I think they're starting to overlap. Alright, so just give them some space so we can see what we're doing a little better. Okay, and back to edge, turn off synced element, and we'll just keep going here. And you could go into isolation mode on the piece if you wanted to make it a little easier to see your edges, but you can also just use wireframe. Okay, so we'll stitch this on. Alright, keep going. Alright, I think that's the bottom, so let's go up to the top here and just grab this guy. Oh. Stitch selected. Alright, so it's all one piece again. Alright, and that's why I wanted to keep the model really simple, because it makes this whole process a lot quicker and easier to do. Alright, so we'll go back to face, turn on synced element, just grab our whole piece and scale it. Alright, scale it down slightly. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect. We might have to change the size of these when we pack them later on. Alright, so we'll just get it close and then just move it out of the way. Okay. And then close this and turn off the unwrap. Alright, and we'll do this one more time on the bottom door. So add an unwrap, edit, back to face, select the whole piece, and then flat map it. Alright, these will be upside down too, so let's put our checker pattern on there so we can see, and we'll just flip this 180. Okay, and then we'll just start stitching. Alright, just going to try to shrink this up a bit, it's too massive. Alright, so back to edge, turn off synced element, and we'll just start stitching them together. Alright, stitch selected. Alright, and again I'm just going to give them some space so we can see a little easier. Alright, zoom in here, grab the green one, stitch, stitch. Alright, I think we're getting pretty close to the bottom there. I'm just going to select this one. Alright, so I think that's the bottom one, so let's go up to the top here, and we'll just do the same thing. Stitch. Alright, getting close. One more piece it looks like. Alright, just want to make sure you get the right edge. Stitch selected. Alright, so all one piece again. Okay, so same process here. We'll just grab the whole piece and just scale it. Okay, I'll just shrink this up. Alright, scale, and we'll just go down a little bit. Alright, maybe like that. Again, we might have to change these after the size of them, so don't worry about getting it absolutely perfect. Alright, and we'll just drag it down here and drop it, and then close this and turn off the unwrap. Okay, so pretty quick and easy. Our doors are now done. Okay, so we're getting there. Let's just do another save to be safe. Alright, so I think we should probably just get the base out of the way right now. Okay, and this piece I am going to take out and do it in a UV layout, so let's select it and export it. Alright, export selected. Save it on the desktop. You want to use the GW one. Okay, and we'll just call it base and save. Okay, same deal as before, just say export and then say done. Alright, and we'll go to the desktop and we're just going to get rid of the body one, we don't need it anymore. Alright, and we'll drag the base onto UV layout and drop it and just say load. Okay, and we'll just make this a little bigger. Okay, so for this one I think I'm just going to chop the top and the bottom off to make it a little quicker. Okay, so let's zoom in here, and I'm just going to start on maybe this edge loop right here at the bottom of that chamfer and just hit C. Okay, and we'll just go along, and I have my edges set to 10. Alright, so we'll just work our way around the entire top. Alright, just be careful you don't miss any of these little tiny edges, else it won't break off properly. Okay, so we'll just go along, hitting C. Alright, try to follow the same loop. Oops, sorry about that. Alright, back to where we started. It looks like all of them, so I'm just going to hit enter. Okay. And if you want to make sure it detached, you can always hold down spacebar and the middle mouse button and just drag the piece up. Alright, just to make sure everything's broken apart properly. Okay, that's fine, so we'll drop the top with D. Okay, and we'll go down to the bottom and just repeat the process. Alright, so I'm just going to start on this edge loop here. C, C, C. Alright, just around the corner. Alright, just want to make sure you didn't miss anything. Alright, looks good, so we'll just keep going. Alright, back to where we started. Oh, it looks like I missed some here, so I'll just go down the side. Alright, so I think that's all of them. Oh, one right there. Okay, so let's try to detach it with enter. Okay, and spacebar and middle mouse button. Drag it down. Alright, looks good, so we'll drop that piece with D. And then we're just left with the sides of the base. Alright, and I think for this I'm just going to maybe break it into two different pieces. Okay, so I'm going to split it right on the corner here. Alright, so we'll just hover over one of these edges and hit C. Okay, and then we'll go around to the opposite corner. Hit C. Okay, and then I'm going to hit enter to break it apart. And again, you can always drag to make sure. Alright, and we'll just drop both of these with D and D. Okay, so let's jump over to the UV window. I'm just going to open up the display panel here. Just hit 3D and then hit UV. Alright, so these are really simple. We might be able to just hold down F here. Alright, so I'm going to do that. Hold down F. Alright, you'll see it flatten out, and then you can just let go. Or you can hit Shift F, spacebar, spacebar. Alright, either way, it doesn't matter. Okay, put those there, and then we'll do Shift F on this. Alright, and spacebar, and this might take a couple extra seconds to do. Just want to wait till all this pink gets out of there. Alright, looks like it's not moving too much anymore, so let's just stop it with spacebar, and then we'll do the same on this piece. Shift F, spacebar, and just give it a second. And this might not turn out perfectly straight, but we can try relaxing it in Max and see if we can straighten it out. Alright, so that's probably cool. Let's stop it, spacebar, and then I think for this I'm probably going to end up stitching these back together in Max, so I'm just going to, kind of stick these in here really quickly. Okay, so we'll put one up here, try to straighten it out a bit, and then I'm just going to move these out of the way. Spacebar and the middle mouse button. Okay, and drag this one over, and rotate it, spacebar and the left mouse button. Okay, so I'm just going to stack them like that, and then I'm just going to stack the top and bottom just underneath it for now. And we'll figure out what we want to do with it when we get back into Max. Okay, so auto fit and 3D. Okay, and we'll just hit T, check our mapping. Alright, looks pretty good. I don't see any pink, so that's probably fine. Alright, so let's save this guy out. Save. I'm just going to add the H in there again so I know it's the headest version. And save. Okay, and dismiss, and close, and exit. Alright, so let's get rid of the one we exported out of Max, because we don't need it. And we'll go back into Max and just delete the base, and import the mapped one. Alright, so import, desktop. I'll switch this to the wavefront OBJ. importer. Alright, select the base and open. Alright, same deal as before, and OK. Alright, so there it is. Let's change the name to base again. Right click and convert it back to editable poly. Alright, just going to change the color to black. And we'll throw on our checker pattern. Alright, so yeah, I think I'll stitch it back together. So let's put an unwrap on this. Alright, unwrap and edit. Alright, so let's just maybe try to relax it a little bit before we stitch it. Okay, so I'm going to go to face with synced element turned on, and I'm just going to grab all the chunks, okay, and we'll just relax them all at once. Okay, so let's move this over a bit. Alright, so tools, relax, and again I'm going to use face angles, put the amount up to 1, and just pump the iterations up a little bit, and then we'll just hit apply a couple of times. Alright, you might not be able to get it perfectly straight. Let's straighten it out a bit. Alright, so that's probably fine, so we'll just close that and let's stitch them back together. Okay, so we'll go to edge, turn off synced element, and just select one of the side edges, and then right click and stitch selected. Alright, just so we have one strip piece for that, okay? And I might just relax it again, so I'm going to go back to face, turn on synced element, and just grab it, and tools, relax, face angles, pump the iterations up in the amount, and then apply. Alright, that's probably fine. I'm not going to worry about it too much. I think it's more than good enough. Okay, so let's just grab all the pieces, and we'll just move them out of the 0 to 1, stick them over here maybe, for now. Okay, and then just close this and turn off the unwrap. Actually, let's scale them first. I forgot to do that. Alright, so go back into the editor window. I'm just going to shrink it up a bit. Alright, so let's go back to face and just grab all the pieces, and we'll just scale them up a little bit. Alright, shrink our checkers down. Alright, that looks pretty close, so we'll say it's good enough. Alright, and just close the window and turn it off. Alright, so just like that, let's just check it out. Alright, looks good. Don't see any weirdness. Alright, so we're making some progress here. We just have the little tiny pieces left, and that shouldn't take too long. Okay, so let's do another save.